So the next question is, how safe are the current teams for franchise? This is kind of fun.
This is mostly speculation.
Yeah, it's all speculation. We don't have any details, but we are experts, and we get paid for a reason. So now we're going to give you our expert speculation.
All right. So they did list what their basis of evaluating teams would be on. You need to have a plan. You need to come forward with what you're going to bring with sponsors, how you're going to acquire sponsors, how that's all going to work, what's your plan for how your team's going to run. They did have listed all out somewhere, what they expect in their proposals. Now, that said, you don't know how much they're valuing each bullet point in that proposal. How important is your sponsorship plan versus how much money do you have right now? Are you a big name? Mark Cuban, your document wasn't that compelling, but shit, you're Mark Cuban. Right. Let's grab him. So I think that's kind of where a lot of the ambiguity comes from right now. And in terms of who's safe right now, I think you can only say kind of for sure, the super big dogs who have
which would be,
I would say you can probably write in TSM. And when I say big dogs, I don't necessarily mean existing in esports for a while, but people who already have big backing,
yes.
Dignitas, regardless of
You think Dignitas regardless?
No, I was gonna say regardless of what you think about them as an org, they have 76ers behind them, which is pretty big.
All right, we'll talk about Dig in a second.
Yeah, but that was just an example of a team with a big ownership group behind it that Riot probably wants, regardless of if the current staff is what Riot wants. So I would say you probably have TL because they have all that crazy Golden State Warrior investment from Axiom.
Sure, Axiomatic, yeah.
Axiomatic, whatever. So I'd say TL, C9, TSM, Dig, and then there's one other, Immortals. I would say I feel pretty good about.
Did you not say Cloud9?
I just say C9, I think. I did not say CLG.
Okay, so wait. So we've got TL.
You're going to write it down. TL,
TSM,
C9.
Dig, you said Dig?
Dig, Immortals.
Okay.
And then I was a little shaky on Echo Fox. I would like to think Echo Fox.
Okay.
And maybe P1 just because I feel
you think P1 in there too?
Maybe. I mean, okay. I personally like them, so it might be a little biased.
I mean, they have a pretty big ownership group as well.
Yeah,
in terms of investment.
Yeah, so I basically just listed everything with big investments. If you didn't notice,
Kelsey.
Yeah. See, I feel when Riot say they want certain types of long-term partners, what they really have in mind are things like sports organizations and things like this. So for me, if you have that kind of backing, or even if your best bet is even to just change your name to something that reflects that you have that kind of backing when you're doing your application.
Elon Musk's
because I
team.
feel
that's the name of it.
Yeah, I feel Riot
Tesla
just would just actively, they want kind of the mainstream involvement, even if that mainstream involvement hasn't even necessarily proven that it can field better teams, right? So it's just because of the branding and the validation that kind of comes with it. So,
okay, so I actually disagree with that based off my interview with them, where they said that they would sway or lean towards esports experience instead of traditional sports experience or business experience. My guess is they want both.
I think they probably would want both, but also what they say in the interview isn't necessarily always going to reflect what they do.
People need to learn that there's a difference between what Riot Games eSports says and what they mean.
Monty Cristo.
Yeah.
Are you pulling a Monty right now?
Korean professional.
I mean, I'm not pulling a Monty, but I do think that there is something to that, though. Just because, I even understand where they would come from if they would value these types of traditional sports orgs, because it's okay, you have a track record where you can manage a team in this type of setting and things like this, even if it doesn't necessarily mean that sports teams are good esports team. I mean, they're practically modeling their league and a lot of other things off of these ideas that they see from how sports franchising works, and they've tried to model a lot of the LCS in the past in terms of production and things like this off of what they see in traditional sports. So it makes sense to me that they would value this a lot.
So the weird thing,
And also esports experience type people, like some of them have been hit or miss as well in terms of like where the money is coming from and stuff like this. So I can understand why Riot would take that approach,
Wait, so
which is why I'm kind of
Mark, I know
arguing
you have something, but I want to know, Kelsey, do you have guesses? Who would you say right now?
I mean, I kind of agree with Mark, except I might even say that.
So he said TL, TSM, C9, DIG, IMT, P1.
IMT, P1. I might not even say TSM and C9. I mean, they have to, right?
Are you saying not TSM and C9?
I mean, I feel like they're safe. I feel like they're safe, but I almost feel like with my idea of what Riot wants, which isn't even necessarily consistent with what they actually want, it's just a guess that TSM or C9 might even be less safe than a team like, I don't know, DIG or...
I think
well, I mean,
by your evaluation, C9 would be safe only because they picked up that giant ownership group with a couple of...
Whereas IMT and P1 don't have sports backing, which was what...
Well, IMT does.
Valued a lot.
They had like the Vancouver... they have like the Grizzlies and some other people. Yeah.
That's right.
But P1
or
has...
Lincoln Park.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big one, baby.
Studio thing, right? I forget what...
Yeah, P1, I don't think they have sports, but...
Paramount.
Yeah, he used to work there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, maybe TSM should be safe just sheerly by the brand and the amount of fan outrage, but just like by my logic, they might not be.
So I'm pinning you down as everything that Mark said because you still think TSM. And C9.
Yeah, I still think. And Echo Fox. I'll be sure.
Oh, you'll add Echo Fox?
You're
wow.
about an Echo Fox. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So he said 6 of the 10. You said 7. Emily.
Looking at teams in the league right now. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd say the ones that probably aren't safe are Envy, FlyQuest, possibly Echo Fox. CLG is a weird one to me, just because if I were doing it, and maybe this is why I'm not running the league, but I would actually I would legit favor endemic esports orgs. But I kind of hope CLG somehow gets some sort of
so you're saying everyone except for Envy.
Yeah, I'd probably give CLG the edge, so I'd say everyone but Envy and FlyQuest would be safe.
Wow, you guys are really generous. I feel like you guys are really generous.
You think that
I don't see so here's the other thing. I don't see any other, and maybe you're just having some sort of org create a team out of nowhere, but if I'm looking at the teams in Challenger right now, the only 2 I see that I would consider would be Goldcoin United and eUnited, and even Goldcoin is who is funding them, so I'm not really sure. Someone can totally correct me if they have some sort of crazy sponsor that I don't know about, but
I think they have good money, but I can't remember where I read about it.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Some of the management and stuff is Gerard Kelly for Goldcoin United, right? It's like,
By the way,
so that was gonna real quick before you give your list, Travis. That was something I was gonna say when you said esports kind of endemic people compared to business people from traditional sports who know their world, and I think neither of those are necessarily ideal candidates, because I know a lot of people in esports who are not super competent at what they do. And but they can talk a good game.
In terms of the teams that we're talking about here, because when I think endemic esports orgs, the 4 I'm thinking of are CLG, Team Solo Mid, Cloud9, and Team Liquid. Yeah. Would you argue that those specific orgs, because that's who I'm thinking of when I say endemic esports orgs. Yeah. Would you argue that those specific organizations would be bad partners?
No.
Or I guess not have fairly competent management.
Some potentially. I'm thinking of one specific one.
Is it Team Liquid?
No, actually, that's a different. Whatever. I don't want to get into this.
Yeah, I know you're gonna have a rant about.
Yeah. Well,
I don't want to.
He doesn't want to call it CLG.
Yeah, that's more what it is.
That's the thing, though.
Can you just fade away? What I was just gonna say,
shady individual managers on both the sports and the esports side, right? But the reason I think Riot might be more swayed towards the sports side is because to them it's like you have a track record, even if the guys you have right now are not so good. Like, so that's why I think that might be something that Riot would do.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. The differences between, like, I think some of the esports people are just like probably not competent for what is expected of them. And then what I would say from the sports traditional side is not that they're not competent, but they don't have the experience in the esports to understand like what resonates with fans, how the industry actually works, like what the hell is ad block, like these kinds of concerns they don't understand as well necessarily. And like some of the problems that we grew up in knowing just inherently from being in the scene. So like I don't think either is necessarily better than the other.
Yeah, they can be equally bad.
Yeah, depending on like the specific person you're talking about. So I don't like the idea of even like favoring one or the other.
Okay, so by the way, you guys, somebody in Twitch chat, I've now lost their name, I'm sorry, pointed out, a couple of people did, FlyQuest actually does have Milwaukee Bucks backing them.
Oh, yeah. See, I always
which would make it so that Emily would say it's only Envy and Kelsey would say...
So do we know exactly the story on the FlyQuest backing? Because like there you
it's
have...
his son, I think the son, the Eden's family, I think the son of...
Remember Gravity?
Yeah.
Does FlyQuest not just sound like Gravity 2.0 to anyone else?
Okay, so...
Moving on.
No. But I do want to answer this, and we need to go to commercial break, so I want to wrap this up. But for me, maybe we should specify this. So I think there are a couple ways at looking at safety right now. I think somebody like CLG can feel safe, even though I wouldn't automatically qualify them in because they can get money, they can get backing, they have time, right? So right now, if Riot had to like say 100% certain who I'm almost certain is going to make it in right now, the only teams I would say are TSM and C9. TSM because I don't think you can afford to lose them. I think they said in my interview they really value the ability to create a competitive team, and TSM has more banners up in the LCS studio than anybody else. And C9 is pretty close behind them. And C9 also has shown that they can be a pretty successful business from what it looks like outside, and they've got the investment, right? So these guys are pretty safe. Everyone else, I think, has varying degrees of safety. Team Liquid is maybe okay, but this year is not a good time for this to be happening for them, right? Especially if they're valuing competitive stuff. You're pulling Steve in and you're saying like, dude, we think it'd be nice to have you in, but like, what is this shit? And like, why are you letting it happen? You know, and we'll talk about Team Liquid later, I guess. But then you've got IMT. IMT is interesting because they seem like they're okay, but like they have struggled to find sponsorship over the past year and a half. I don't think they have done the best job of building a brand off of the success that they had. Then you've got CLG. CLG, I think I would be, if I was right now, I'd be worried because I don't think CLG has the financial backing that you need for something like this. And there are sometimes questions about their management. George is sometimes around. George is sometimes not around. Like, it's like how invested this guy is. So you, if I'm right, I encourage CLG to go find like a pretty big name, so I feel a little bit more safe about them. You've got, and then I think everybody else is just kind of a toss-up. Like Dig in particular, I'm looking at Dig and I'm saying like, okay, I have a question for you guys. Remember Dignitas before when they were in the LCS the first time? Think about Dignitas now. They've got the 76ers. Does it seem like anything has changed about this Dignitas?
Well, I mean, I think that kind of, in my mind, it kind of brings up an interesting point in terms of looping back around to evaluating permanent partners as organizations, because it is really difficult in esports to get someone to value an organization over a player. Like, players have the majority of marketing, I think, or like the bulk of the marketing power, with obvious exception. The obvious exception is TSM and maybe more recently C9. But like, thinking of like when you said, oh, Dignitas back then, I think of like the players themselves and their popularity and why people liked that team. I don't think people who would call themselves fans of Dignitas now would necessarily like have the same
I just don't think
reasoning.
there are people that would call themselves fans of Dignitas.
Well, you can also make that point too, that like when these high profile players left, a lot of fans left with them, which again brings up another concern of how am I going to market myself as an organization if I'm a permanent partner?
So one of the things for me with orgs that already exist with backing is like, I don't know what a different org that's not them is going to bring to stand out. Like if you bring in some more dumb sports money who doesn't quite understand esports correctly, like what business proposal are they going to throw together that sounds better than what Dig, let's say, already has? Because like they at least have been in the scene for a year. They can say like, this didn't work, we're going to change this stuff, blah, blah, blah. The new org coming in who's trying to take Dig's spot, hypothetically, has nothing in theory, like nothing like that they're bringing other than like, we have a lot of money in sports background as well. And it's like, Dig's like, yeah, we had that too. It's a hard scene to get into.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's the other thing that we haven't brought up is the extra $3 million too, right? Like I think that's a big concern.
So
because it's an extra $3 million for orgs that aren't already.
Yeah, that's why a
LCS
team like
bucket,
CLG is a lot safer, because you just go to CLG and you buy equity in their team and then you back them, and so you don't have to worry about the $3 million and replacing them. But I think with the Dig stuff, okay, Dig has to apply through the same application process, right?
Yes.
And you have to pitch the stuff like they have it on the. Well, we can take it from the screen here, which I have in front of me. It's like you need a brand plan, who your owners are, the business plan, and the team strategy.
Yep.
So the brand plan, for instance, how does the team plan to engage with and acquire fans? What's their strategy for providing value to the fans through merchandise, et cetera? Why should fans support them?
Yep.
So if you're Dignitas and you're applying right now and you've got this brand plan, you're like, guys, 76ers is backing you. Like, what has 76ers done to add value to your brand? I personally don't feel like it's that much right now. And then, Elon Musk walks in the door and it's like, hey, well, let me tell you about how I built the brand of Tesla and how I'm going to take a lot of lessons I learned there. You're probably going to put more faith in Elon than in 76ers, because it's like, guys, you've had how long to figure this out and you haven't done much with it? So
6 months?
Yeah. Well,
but that's not very long.
It's not very long, but like it doesn't feel like they've tried anything to me.
Sure, and I would agree with that. But, like, at the same time, they came in, 76ers didn't try and make a random new org that no one knows who they are. They bought an existing org, and they tried to make it relevant again. They went out and got what you would think is top-tier talent for the most part. They got Someday and Chase. That's, like, a good plan. Like, you're trying to build a competitive team. They tried to get Korean coaching staff. Didn't quite work. Like, a lot of the ideas they went for weren't bad ideas, and I don't want to evaluate them off the fact that they didn't work out.
Yeah.
It's like, could the 76ers have pushed Dig more? I don't know. Is there Dig stuff in the 76ers stadium?
Yeah, there's.
Well, there you go. Like, they're doing stuff. Yeah. How effective is it for you? Not. You don't live in Philadelphia. How effective is it for people in Philadelphia?
So then the question is, if you're building like a global league, how effective is putting a banner? Like that's nice that you did that, but was it a good brand decision?
Well, what's Elon Musk bringing? You don't even have an idea. You're saying hypothetically Elon Musk is a genius and he's going to bring this excellent game plan for how we're going to take over the world.
I'm just saying you've got multiple applications in front of you.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why I think, and so I guess that's backing up. That is why I am very concerned if I am anyone that isn't like
already successful.
Cloud9, TSM, maybe CLG if I know I'm going to get a backer or whatever, because like the amount they are going to get so many people that are going to that are going to submit proposals. Like they're just going to get an influx, right? Like,
yes,
I wouldn't be surprised if they get 50, 100, like, and they're going to have so many big names attached to them. And
that's what I mean is eventually the big name doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, maybe. Because
you're like, oh, Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, Barack Obama, like you said. Like you just start getting so many
a lot
names.
of it is just the pitch. A lot of it is just
the pitch. A lot of it's the pitch. Yeah. And like that's why hypothetically, I don't know what anyone's bringing better than Dig.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying Dig.
Barack Obama ran the country. You don't think he could do better than Dig?
I'd be like, what do you know about esports? And he's like, I joked about it once to make myself seem more pleasing to, because like I read a poll and it said that I should say this. That's great.
I played in China for a while, you know.
Yeah.
I don't.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying that like maybe I'm wrong and like way more teams get replaced, but I don't know what any big name is going to bring beyond what we've already seen big names bring, and it hasn't been that much. Like, what has the big names done for TL, Dig, Echo Fox? Like, none of these teams are like crushing it.
I don't know. Rick's name actually did bring a lot to Echo Fox.
In terms of like positive spin to the league, yes, I will agree with that.
They've made a lot of really questionable decisions, but I do think that like
right, and that's what I'm saying is like the difference between big name usefulness and endemic usefulness.
Okay. So when we come back, we'll be wrapping up our franchise conversation, talking about the Players Association, which got announced. We're going to go to break. We'll see you right after this.